Hey guys, welcome back. So, a serious question for you. Are we about to go into World War III? Let's talk about Russia today. With over 100,000 troops on the border of Russia and Ukraine, NATO's stacking up troops up to Ukraine as well. Russian hackers have hacked the Ukrainian government's websites. Russia's already making ties with Venezuela and Cuba to send troops over closer to us. What's going on here? So today, I think we're going to talk about what we need to be doing to prepare for World War III, because I think it's coming. A lot of people say, we're never going to have a war on our soil. I want to take the time to say, the UK probably thought that they were safe before World War II hit. But then they had to take all of their women and children, put them on trains because their city was getting bombed. The same thing could happen here in the States. Now, a few things would have to happen. Our military would have to be overrun, and they'd have to have the troops over here in the first place. But it could very well happen, and I want you guys to be aware of that. So let's talk about current events, what's going on right now. Or within the past couple of weeks, let's talk about it. So the big one is, and I'll put a map up, we've got Russian troops that are just pouring in all over the coast of Ukraine. Not the coast, the border of Ukraine. And they've got troops over in Belarus for the northern part of Ukraine. And obviously they got troops up on Russia's border. And that'll take care of the eastern part of Ukraine. And then they've also got some troops stationed over in the Crimean Peninsula, which is the south. So Ukraine, they're surrounded at this point. And NATO is unhappy, and the United States is unhappy. Now, I don't understand why the United States needs to get completely involved with this, but that's beside the point. See, we already are involved. So that's what we need to focus on, is I think that Russia is going to try and take Ukraine, and I think it's going to start a major conflict, if not World War III. Now, that being said, we've got hackers from Russia that have hacked into the Ukraine's government websites, and they posted on there, be afraid, expect the worst, all this. And it's just more leading up to a war. Also, the Pentagon have just put 8,500 troops on high alert. So we're getting ready to send a bunch of people out, is what that's saying, is what I'm getting from that. Let's read this article. This was posted on January 24th, so a few days ago. In a meeting on Saturday at Camp David, the presidential retreat in Maryland, senior Pentagon officials presented Mr. Biden with several options that would lead to a shift in U.S. military assets much closer to Russia's doorstep, administration officials say. The bulk of the troops being put on higher alert are active duty, ground troops, including combat brigades, medical, aviation, transportation, so on and so forth. Mr. Kirby declined to identify specific units, saying that families were being notified on Monday. Another key factor, and that's us telling Russia, look, if you do this, there's going to be consequences. We did that in response to what Russia did. And I guess Russia has been talking with Venezuela and Cuba, and they're wanting to get troops over there, which is pretty close to us. So you got to stop and realize the only reason why they want those troops here is to get to the U.S. So another reason why we need to be preparing today on the possibility that we're going to get invaded here in the United States. And another disturbing thing is, I guess, Poland and Russia have been talking, and the Polish people are, well, they're thinking about letting the Russian people come in and inspect their missile-to-air defense, if the Russians will let the Polish go and inspect theirs. But see, there's one big problem here, is the United States of America provided all those missile defense to Poland. So it's our equipment. And they're pretty much giving the Russians a green light to look at our equipment and see what we've got. I don't know, guys. It's scary times. So what can we do? You need to be ready to leave if you have to. And that's a lot easier said than done, I realize. But you need to be ready to leave. You need to have things in place to where you can survive when you do leave. So guys, whenever it's time to leave, or whenever you're making a plan about leaving, you always need to ask yourself the who, what, where, when, and why. And I usually start with the why first. So why are you planning on leaving? That's something that you got to address. Is it safer to stay where you're at? Or you need to have a reason why you're leaving before you leave. When will you leave? What's the threshold for you? So if you're leaving, if the why is because the United States is getting invaded, well, if you live on the East Coast, say, and we're getting invaded from the West Coast, you need to decide when it's time to leave. Where will you go? You need to have this ahead of time. If this will vary in certain circumstances. If the enemy's to the east, you're probably going to be going west. Hopefully you have a place to go. If not, you're gonna have to think about where you're going to be going. What will you take? This kind of goes along with how much time do you have? So, what will you take? You're going to want food. You're going to want weapons with ammunition. And who are you taking with you? Who are you leaving with? Whoever's in that group that we talked about earlier, if you're leaving, it's time for everybody to leave. You need to meet up in a central location and go. There's power in numbers, so don't try to do this by yourself. So now that we've got that question out of the way, I've got a video on how to build a bug out bag, and I'll link that right up here somewhere. But it's time to start thinking about, let's start having things at the ready in case we have to leave in a hurry. Because if you're not ready, it's going to take a while to get all your stuff together, and you might not have that much time. So get a bag together and get one for everybody that's going with you. Go ahead and have it stocked, ready to go, put in a safe place. These are times right now when you don't want to be taken from your bag to use on a daily basis. I'm guilty of that. I do that a lot. I call it a get home bag that I carry around a lot, and I'm all the time taking stuff out of there and using it. It's starting to get to a time where we may actually need those kind of bags. So leave the stuff in there until it's time to use it, because you might not have it whenever it's time. If you got to leave in a hurry, you don't have time to go searching for these little things that you're using. You just got to go. Now that we've talked about our bag, we need to talk about our weapons, our firearms. Do you have a sling? Because you're going to get real sick of carrying the firearm all day long. Now, there's going to be times whenever you need to carry it, but it's much better to have a sling, because if you stop and try to make a meal, you're going to have to set your firearm down. It could fall in the mud. I mean, the possibilities are endless. It's better to have it on you. Same thing with a holster for your sidearm. You're going to want one of those. And I'd say the most important thing that you need to think about is don't go out of your way looking for the gunfight, because you don't want it. Your goal is probably going to try to be to avoid situations where you're going to have to use your firearm. That being said, you still need to have it because you never know what could happen. You could be forced into that kind of situation. So make sure you got a sling. Make sure you got a holster. Make sure that your rifle's zeroed. You need to make sure that you know when you shoot at something, is it going to hit your target or not? I mean, if you've just went out and bought this fancy optic and you never took the time to zero it, you might not have a chance to do it out in whenever it's time to go. And I mean, that's going to be a real bad situation if you have to use it and it's not hitting where you want it to hit. So keep that in mind too. And then one of the last things that I want to talk about is you need to have a reliable vehicle. Hopefully when the time comes, you'll be able to leave by vehicle and you won't have to leave by foot, because you can get a lot more places a lot quicker, and you can carry a lot more with you in a vehicle. It's always a good idea to have some type of a camping stove with you. You don't want to rely on a fire every time that you need to go cook your food. So anyways, I hope you guys found that interesting, and hopefully it helps you guys out a little bit. Stay tuned. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.